Think a filter will make your photos instantly better? Not so fast. I see photographers waste money, or worse, ruin their photos by making these common filter mistakes. Let's make sure you're not one of them. I'm Mark Bergering, and today I'm gonna walk you through the biggest filter mistakes I see photographers make and how to fix them, so you can get the benefits without the regrets of filters. As always, I'll link to all my favorite gear down in the description, so go check it out. And stick around to the end where I'll share an important tip on how to remove a stuck filter without a filter wrench. Before we dive in, let's talk about the types of filters I'm going to be discussing in this video. So the most commonly used filter I have is the polarizing filter. It darkens the sky and cuts reflection in reflected light. So that's a great option if you're shooting landscape images or anything where you might encounter reflections. Next up is the variable ND filter. This is great for video if you need to darken your exposure and you still want to maintain that shutter angle where you've got, say you're shooting in 24p, you want to use a shutter speed of 1/50. This allows you to darken the image so you can create that proper shutter angle. Next up is the graduated ND filter. So this goes on the front of your lens and allows you to darken the top of the image. Now this is great for landscape photographers who want to get a beautifully exposed sky and also foreground. When you're shooting into a bright scene where the sky might be illuminated in a sunset and you still want to get the nice detail in the foreground, you can easily balance it by sliding and tilting. This has a ring on it, so you can rotate and slide this to adjust it to the perfect angle. I also always use a polarizing filter on my drone whenever I'm shooting landscapes and there's enough light to handle that. If it starts to get darker, I will switch to the standard filter, which is a UV filter on the front of my drone. But generally, I will almost always have a polarizer there. And lastly, a UV filter. Now this is just a filter. It's just a plain piece of glass that goes on the front of your lens to, quote, protect it. We'll get more into that. But the one place I do recommend using one is on your drone. It will come standard with a UV filter. And if you're not using a polarizer, you should definitely have that on. All right, so let's get right into the mistakes. First mistake I see people make is cheap filters. Slapping a cheap filter on your $1,000 lens is a big mistake. Cheap glass often adds softness, color casts, and flares. They also create other headaches like color shifting, which makes editing harder. They sneak dust in between your lens and the front element and just create a lot of pain for you. Additionally, cheap filters often get stuck on your lens, so you're gonna always wanna keep a filter wrench handy. Mistake number 2 I see people making is using filters when you don't need to. Using that polarizer when it's cloudy outside, shooting indoors with a polarizer, that's just killing your light. A UV filter with a lens hood, that's just silly. You're adding a piece of gear in front of your lens that you don't need. Always ask, what's the goal with this filter? And if you don't have one, take it off. Mistake number 3 is stacking multiple filters. Once you get 2 or 3 filters stacked on your lens, it's gonna cause vignetting, especially on wide angle lenses. Plus, the extra layer of glass increases the risk of flare and softness in your images. Mistake number 4 is not cleaning your filters. A dirty filter will make your photos look blurry, hazy, create color cast or light in odd ways. Fingerprints, dust, water, they show up more than you think. So keep a microfiber cloth handy and clean them regularly. Mistake number 5 is forgetting the filter's effect on your exposure. ND filters and polarizers cut light. So if you have it on when you don't need to, it's gonna create unnecessarily high ISO and make your images not look as good. Mistake number 6 is not getting a filter case. If you're like me and you have a lot of filters and you wanna have your lenses all kitted up with the same polarizer or variable ND filter, you're gonna wanna have a case. I have a case for me, I have a case for Brenda, and I have a case for step-up rings and variable ND filters. So now that I've given you those mistakes, I want to talk a little bit about my filter philosophy. Not all filters are bad. Here's how I think about them. Filters I do use, and filters I might use, and filters I don't use. The ones I would use are a circular polarizing filter, a variable ND filter, and sometimes a graduated ND filter. Now this has become more rare, but I do still have it. This filter has become more rare to use for me because the dynamic range in a lot of modern cameras has gotten so good that the graduated ND is just not needed as much. Plus, this darkens everything in your image when sometimes you just want to darken the sky or a certain object or subject, and the subject, object, and sky selection tools in Lightroom have gotten so good with the AI power that I just don't use this as much. Back when I was shooting on the 5D Mark II, this was absolutely necessary because it helped darken the sky and create those landscape images that have a nice consistent exposure regardless of what the sky is doing. Now, filters I don't bother with are UV filters. I used to have UV filters for all of my lenses, but I quickly realized that these are just kind of silly. They're often cheap. They just add a low quality protection in front of your lens that doesn't offer as much protection as you might think. Now, something that does offer more protection is a lens hood. Now, this is gonna snap on the front of your lens and keep things from bumping it. The only time that I would recommend using a UV filter is when you're gonna be shooting, say, dusty, dirty environments where you want to be able to let things hit the front element of your lens and not have to worry about scratching it. So maybe you're shooting mountain biking and you're gonna let the dirt fly. That's the only time I would put a UV filter on the front of my lens. All the other times I would avoid it and just go with a lens hood because it's gonna offer more protection and not hinder you when you wanna switch out filters. You don't have to take one off, you can just add it right on. The other filters I don't bother with are fixed ND filters. I use variable ND filters, and fixed ND filters are great, but I'm often working in environments that are just too dynamic, where I need to change my exposure constantly, and having a fixed ND is just not the right fit for my style of shooting. The one problem with variable ND filters is that they can potentially create a dark blob in the sky because of the polarizing effect that these filters have. So that brings me to my next thought, which is filters that I might experiment with. The first up is a variable ND with a polarizer built in. So they make filters that are a combination of polarizers and variable ND filters. And the only reason I haven't tried them is because they're kind of expensive. It does allow you to adjust both of those at the same time, so you can control how that polarizing effect impacts your image without adjusting the ND. Other things that I haven't personally experimented with, but I think could be fun to experiment with, are the mist filters, kind of create that dreamy cinematic portrait look, or gold and blue streak filters, which kind of create a slightly anamorphic look, or that streak that you often see when people are capturing images of vehicles or just other creative shots with lights in a dark environment. Another filter you might experiment with that I haven't personally tried is astrophotography filters. Now, these claim to filter out certain spectrums of light so that you can get images of stars in somewhat urban environments. But personally, I prefer just traveling to dark sky locations where you don't have any of that ambient light from cities that might impact your images. Now, I wanted to give a quick shout out to KN&F Concept for sending me two filters that I'm showing today. This is the variable ND filter, and they also sent me a polarizing filter for this new Viltrox 85mm lens. So if you want to see a review of this lens, this is the 85mm f1.4 from Viltrox. It's an awesome, affordable portrait lens. I'll put a link to that review up in the corner there. So these two filters are from KN&F Concept. I find that they provide a great value option. They're not super cheap, they're not super expensive, and they are a good balance of the two. They offer quality, and I especially liked this little red tab here on this filter because it allows you to easily adjust your amount of ND that you're getting. I also liked how grippy this polarizing filter is, and it makes it easy to adjust when it's on the front of your lens because those nice knurled tabs really grip your fingers. So I'll put a link to both of these down below. They also come with these cool cases, which is great if you don't already have a filter case. It's nice to have something right out of the package that allows you to safely store your filter. So go check those out, link in the description. So hopefully that helped you avoid some filter mistakes. When used properly, filters can make a big effect on your images. They cut reflections and slow down water, protect the highlights. The key is knowing how and when to use them. As promised, I wanted to give you my tip on how to remove a stuck filter from your lens without a filter wrench. So what you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna want to have somebody else hold the lens if possible, and then get as many contact points on the filter as you can and slowly squeeze it from all sides and rotate it until it's off. Now, what the effect is, you're getting, instead of squeezing it one hand on the lens and two fingers on the filter, where you're gonna be essentially pinching it into an oval shape, which creates more friction. If you can get 4 or maybe even 6 points of contact on the outside of the filter. It's all gonna be pushing inward and not deforming the shape of the filter. And then you can slowly rotate as you loosen that filter. It'll come right off. But what the filter wrench does is essentially it grips all the way around the filter and rotates it, and it doesn't pinch it in 2 places. So if you don't have a filter wrench, you're gonna simulate that as best you can by grabbing with as much surface area and rotating, and it helps to have somebody hold the lens for you. So if you utilize all those tips, I think these filters are gonna make a big impact on your photos, making them better instead of hurting them. My go-to filter, a high quality circular polarizer. Adds color, drama to the skies, cuts reflection off water and glass. I wanna know in the comments, what filter are you using and what do you like about it? If you found this video helpful, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button for more photography tips, and check out the links in the description for the filters I recommend. Up next, you should watch my video on how to use a polarizing filter. I dive deeper into the specifics of this filter and gives you lots of examples on how to improve your images. I'll see you over there.